Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Barkology. So this week we've got another super awesome guest on the show. So for those of you that do agility, we've got Dave Munnings on. So hi Dave. So Dave is like one of the top UK competitors, probably in the world actually as well. I'll let you kind of talk
Well,
about all
what
your
used to
achievements
be. Fingers crossed. I'm not has been yet. Just getting there.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. How are you?
No problem. Yeah, good. How are you guys doing?
Yes, we're good. Thank
Good.
you. We're
Excited.
good. We're good.
Yeah, thanks for asking me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So we do have a lot of like agility type questions and stuff. But for first of all, perhaps for people that don't kind of know you, do you want to just tell us a little bit about your, I know, dog training, agility journey, and yeah,
I'll start from, I'll run through it as quick as I can. So I kind of started when I was agility when I was like 12. My mum got me a little spaniel and kind of just went from there, got some collies, started doing quite well with them. So I've had like 13 dogs now in total, I think, like not including the ones I've got now, the ones that I've had before. And then I went to university to become an osteopath, and at the same time, I started teaching agility to kind of, fund my uni lifestyle. And then once I finished uni and got my degree, I decided I just really like dog training. So then just carried on from there, started doing quite really well with my dogs. So, I got some medals. I've won a lot every competition in the UK, got medals at World Champs. I've done well. So it kind of just kept getting bigger and bigger. More people wanted to train with me. Started online training, sort of like, I don't know, maybe 2012, quite a while ago now, well over 10 years ago. And that is kind of where I'm at now, is just doing a lot of online. Just launched my new website, so that's cool. We've got a subscription website. I'm really excited about that. And doing less and less actual physical teaching, which is nice because I just want to stay home. Now I'm old. I just want to sit at home with my dogs. I don't ever want to leave. So still doing training, but just less of it now and more online stuff, which I'm loving.
Yeah, and online training works really well for agility, I find as well. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really popular. I mean, I've done, I do online courses too with other people. I love it. So, before we had that back in the day, before we had all online classes and everything, everyone used DVDs and
Yeah.
that I went through all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Nowadays, and if someone had a running dog walk, everyone's like, "Oh, how did they train that?" That was
Yeah.
crazy. Whereas nowadays, everyone can just sign up to a running dog walk course, and everyone's got.
Yeah.
It's just evolved so much in the last 10 years, like crazy amounts.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely, definitely. Okay, so if we kind of start with them from the beginning, so like from agility journey, so like puppy skills, kind of. So obviously you've got 40, that's your youngest dog. Yeah, am I right? So I'm a bit
Yeah.
with social
Yes,
media
you're right.
sometimes. So what kind of skills do you think is important to kind of teach puppies, first of all, for whether they are going to be just a pet dog or even if they're, whether it is going to be agility? Is it the same for you or? Yeah, is there anything
Definitely,
kind of
like the initial skills will always be the same. Just recall, if you want toy play, retrieve, just building relationship. Like recall is like the numbers one thing, isn't it? The amount of people that I was at a show at the weekend actually, and the amount of dogs that ran out rings, going to other rings, ran out my ring to go and see other rings. It was driving me up the wall. I haven't seen it so much in ages, and I'm just thinking these people just don't have a recall. Like they
mm,
just don't have that relationship want to come back to them. Like I've never in all my years had a dog that hasn't wanted to just stay and work with me.
yeah.
I don't know why. That's just obviously something I work on without even realizing I work on it, because it's something that I don't even put effort into. It just happens. I would assume they wouldn't run away from me, or if they did, if I called them, they would come back.
Mhm.
But yeah, these amount of dogs, amount of people that don't put enough time into their recall is the number one thing, because it's dangerous as well. Dog chases
Yeah.
something, gets hit by a car, goes somewhere they shouldn't, gets lost. So many things can happen. So yes, pet dog, agility dog, whatever dog you've got, work on your recall, and it shouldn't really be that hard, especially with the border collie. Obviously, spaniels, other breeds can be a little bit harder if they get their little schnoz down and start sniffing, but not impossible. My first one was a spaniel, and she had as good a recall as any of my collies. So that's number one. Agility wise, toy play.
Mhm.
Again, but that creates the relationship as well. That helps with your recall. Toy play, getting the retrieve. I always say like your retrieve is pretty much a mirror image of your relationship, because if they don't want to bring you the toy, they're not going to want to really be with you. So they get that retrieve, because that shows that at least they want to be with you and not just self-reward and bugger off with their toy all the time.
Yeah.
And then agility things, wing commitment, foundation skills, understanding body movement, verbal cues. I mean, there's so much, isn't there? I mean, just never-ending list of things to train
Yeah.
your puppies. But
Yeah.
retrieve and recall, they're the ones I'm going to go with.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're right. I find as well a lot of agility people, they kind of let their dogs do whatever they want at home and they have like no self-control and but then they then expect their dogs to stay in the ring with them and do like 20, 22
I know.
obstacles. And then they lose their shit when the dog runs out the ring and stuff.
Right.
And it's like
Always
so
happens. I
yeah.
think it's a fine balance as well, because I think some people I know go too much on control and then the dogs are bored. They don't want to be with them. But my
Yeah.
dogs are naughty. They barge through doors, they jump up for food, they beg, they do all sorts of things that they are pet dogs. And I find I quite like that personality side of it. I'm not
Mhm.
really strict. I'm stricter than Dan. Like Dan's really not strict, but I'm not as strict as other people would be. So I do expect them to behave, as in the fact that I hate barking and stuff, but they still do it. I'm not like Hitler when it comes to my dogs living in a house, but it's all about having a relationship with them. They get lots of cuddles and lots of kisses, and it's just creating that love between you and them, I think, and
Mm.
that's what makes them want to be with you. And if you don't have that little relationship at home, and if you're too strict on them sometimes, then of course they're not going to want to be with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Definitely. And definitely like those foundation skills are very important. I still remember the very first like in-person agility trainer that I went to did not focus really on any of those things. So I want to ask you a question about toy play. So apart from retrieves, what else do you focus on? And maybe someone new can also focus on with their puppy or their older dog. What do you do with toy play?
So, I mean, that's how I always want to reward my dogs. Yeah, I mean, yes, you can use food, and some dogs really do like food just as much as toys. But I would find, as an overall, dogs will be more motivated if they have a good understanding of toy play. So I work so much on their tug. I've never ever seen any litter of puppies, any breed that puppies don't tug. Every puppy will tug in a litter. They'll grab things, they'll pull on things, and people go, "Oh, it's this, that, and the other breed won't tug." Every dog will tug if if you do the right stuff with it when you get it home. It's not always easy. Some breeds are way easier to teach tug than others. I'm not saying it's easy, but it is doable. And people give up on it way too easy. And they go, "Oh, you know what? They're not tugging. We'll just use food. Have a bit of food instead." So try the tug. Doesn't work. Have a bit of food. So what are they doing? They're rewarding the dogs for not tugging. It drives me crazy. So yeah, I really, really work on their toy play initially. And I haven't had, just because I've had collies, they've not all been easy. Some of them have been pain in the ass to teach to tug. They just aren't that bothered by it. So I've really had to put some effort into those ones. But they don't. I do a lot of like if you tug, then you might get your food, but you have to tug first, so you get that transfer value. So I do a lot of that with dogs that don't like tugging as much as others. So if they wouldn't tug, I wouldn't feed them. I'd put them in a cage for 10 minutes, get them back out, try again, cage for 10 minutes, get them. Eventually they get frustrated. They go, "Oh, okay, I'll grab it." Even if they grab it for literally 5 seconds, excellent. Now you can have a bit of food. So you get that transfer value. If they're really not even wanting to put it in their mouth, you can teach to retrieve with food. So you can teach them to pick something up and bring it to you. That eventually can turn into a bit of game of tug, because you can have a little play with them when they bring it back. So many things. You don't have to just tug. You can use food to teach tug. But having a dog that's really good on their tuggy definitely increases their drive and gets a better connection with you, I find.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I remember teaching my Sheltie Splash to tug on and actually to like chase a ball and stuff as well. Because I remember I used
Yeah,
to train with Sean and with you when I was
yeah,
in
I
the
remember.
UK. And I remember once we were at Sean's training and he was obviously teething at the time and he's a real dramatic child. And so he literally screamed when we were tugging and I thought he had like a neurological disorder or something. I was
Oh my
literally,
God.
like freaking out completely.
The
And it was just because
panic.
yeah, I know completely. And it was just because he was teething and didn't want to tug. And then after that, he didn't want to go near the ball. But I used the food to like shape the
Yeah.
retrieve and
Yeah,
that
and absolutely you
it.
can shape it. Exactly. And I
Uh,
think using a toy as well that you can throw is great too. You don't have to always tug, but having something they
Yeah.
want to chase. So if they really,
yeah.
really can't get your dog to tug, at least put the food in a clam or something you can chuck.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
tug definitely increases drive, I
Yeah,
would say,
yeah.
for
And it
most dogs.
Yeah, and it's finding what material they want to tug with as well. So like
Mm,
Max, for
Mm.
example, he loves like those holy rollies. Like he'll chase them and he'll tug
mhm.
on them and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've got a new puppy. I got a palm the other week who's like complete
A
midlife
palm.
crisis child. Yeah,
Oh
he's
my
like,
God,
but
so
like
cute.
his toy drive is amazing. But I'm letting him literally tug on anything. So if he wants to tug on my sleeve, I'm letting him. And I'm
Yeah, let
like,
them tug.
yeah, exactly.
Anything.
So
It
I'm
is like
quite liberal when it comes to that kind of
it,
thing. When
it
you just
should
want them
be, and
to like,
especially with a different breed like that, let them do
yeah,
whatever they pretty much want. Like, let
yeah,
them be naughty.
yeah.
Let them just be crazy. And it is like every single one of my dogs, I go to the ring with a different style of toy because I know which is their favorite, which
Mm,
they like. I love a holy roller because it's nice and big and it sits, but they don't all want a holy roller. So, whatever
Mm.
they like, they kind of let them decide what their favorite is, and that's what I go with. But I do try and make them tug with everything,
mhm.
but it's good to know what their favorite is, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. And would you do the same thing with, say, if you had a client that perhaps had like a rescue dog or an older dog who hadn't kind of learned to play, or would you kind of adapt it
I mean,
slightly
I don't.
for dogs?
You have to know as a trainer, you have to know the people you're working with just as much as the dogs. And some people just aren't going to teach it. Like, and that's fine if you really, really don't want to teach it. You're trying to force people to teach their dogs to tug is like pulling teeth, and it's not going to work. And
Mm.
the dog gets stressed, the handler gets stressed, and I make people run. I'm like, run, just run away, keep running, keep running. And you can tell after about 30 seconds they've had it, that their energy is gone. If they
Yeah,
haven't got the energy, they're not going to get the tug because you do have to put a lot of energy in. So some people we
yeah,
go, you know what, let's just use food. If the dog really likes food, let's
yeah,
use food. It might be better for the toy, but you have got to, know who you're working with as well. And I'm not going to force every single person who comes to me to teach their dogs to tug. I always say it might be better, but if you really want to use food, that's fine. I'm not going to force it. As long
yeah.
as the dog is motivated by something and will chase something.
Yeah, and you do
Yeah,
actually have to
definitely.
teach owners the mechanics of how to play as well, because so
Yeah,
many
that's
people
the
don't
hardest bit.
actually,
Yeah.
like you tell people you ask them to play with their dog, and you see the stuff that they're doing, and it's like, okay, that's not play. It's like,
It's like a robot. I know. I look at them. I think. I just say, like, imagine you're a 10-year-old kid playing with your first puppy. Like, get on the floor, enjoy it, interact with them. But some people just don't have that. Maybe they didn't have kids as dogs as kids, and maybe they don't have that understanding of how to interact with them. And which is fine. It's just, and then sometimes it's the dogs will tug with me, or like because I train and they tug with me, but they won't tug with them. I have that quite a lot with quite a few of my students actually. The dogs will prefer to bring the toy to me because I think I have better tug mechanics.
Mm.
I'm not saying, people might get me wrong. I'm not saying it's the end of the world if your dogs won't tug. I'm just saying it usually makes them a little bit more drivey. But if you really can't teach it, just food is fine. Just don't overfeed. Don't make them so full that they can't work. Like that
Yeah.
drives me mad too. They feed for
yeah,
literally breathing. At least
yeah,
make sure you feed them for doing something.
yeah, yeah.
Oh no.
That's me. That's me.
Oh yo. Oh no, you've taken a breath. Excellent. There you go.
Yeah,
I love you for breathing.
I
yeah.
love you so much. Have all my food. Take everything.
I know. I do that to my clients. I just watch them feeding just for and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, just stop feeding.
No.
Like, and then the
I'm
dog.
like, why have they had that bit of food? What have they done to
Yeah,
deserve that reward? Because now you're going to expect them to do something really hard for exactly the same reward. And you
exactly.
wonder why they're not putting so much effort in.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
That's why toys are useful because you can level your reward.
yeah,
You can go crazy jackpot. You can go, yeah, you can have the toy, but I'm going to take it off you. So
yeah,
many different levels of reward with toy. With food, you kind of get the food or you don't get the food. Yes, you can
Yeah.
feed a bit more, but it's harder to get those different levels of reward. And I do so much of different levels when I reward. And sometimes I think, it was all right. I like it, but I don't love it. But my dogs know
Yeah.
when I love that they did something because I go
yeah,
crazy with it.
yeah. That's another good point actually about rewarding and stuff. Because I find another thing in agility that people don't really reward that much, in comparison to like
Yeah.
say, how long the dog has worked and stuff. And like, how I
Hmm.
don't know, is that something that you find that like, or
I
like,
think
or
in
they
the
get something wrong?
UK, most of the people I train with me, Nara, Martin, Dan, or Sean. And if you train with any of them, you reward well, or you get absolutely bollocked for it. So
Yeah,
I think I don't really train people anymore that don't do that. If I have to tell someone to reward more than once, I get a little bit annoyed. I don't go mad. I get a little bit annoyed because I think, I can just reward your dog. Can I allowed to swear? Sorry, beat
yes,
me
you can
out.
swear. Yeah, it's
Just
fine.
reward your dog. It drives me mad if people are like talking to me and they haven't rewarded. I'm like, I'm not talking to you until you give them that dog what it deserves because it's done well and you're the
Yeah.
one that's just messed up. So yeah, I don't really see that a lot anymore because all the people I train with that group of people and we're all crazy about the rewarding. If I go somewhere new, I am often quite surprised about how little people give their dogs a reward. And I think, what is going on here? Like, no wonder these dogs aren't that motivated or don't have a
Yeah.
or don't want to be with their owners because they're just not they're
Yeah.
not creating that relationship. They're just expecting the dogs to do it. And if
Yeah.
they do it right, yeah, excellent. They might get something
Yeah.
a little bit, but if they do it wrong, they get a good bollocking, and that dry that yeah, well, I don't allow that. So it's happening less and less. People have got a lot better at training all
Yeah.
over the world, but it still does happen. And people do forget to reward. They forget that their dog just did all
Yeah.
that work. And when people
Yeah.
don't reward when it was their mistake, that
Hmm.
really winds me up too. Because I think you just handled that so badly. And now you're berating your dog, saying,
Yeah.
oh, stupid dog, this, that, and the other. I think it was completely your fault.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and I'm not saying I've never done that, but I try, me and my friends do try our absolute hardest to not get irritated with our dogs and just always look at it from an external point of view and see what we did ourselves.
Mm.
And then how long should people reward for? So, give us
Oh
a
my
situation.
goodness. Let's say jackpot running dog walk, like 30 seconds to a minute. Like go crazy. Like really, really, I go wild when they do a really good running dog walk. If let's say they had a pole down, a bar down, and then I make them do it again, they keep it up, they can have a toy for like a second. There you go, take it off them. So it's very much dependent on what they've done. So jackpot I reward for quite a while. Like I force people, they sometimes they try and stop talking like, no, another 10 seconds, I'll count them down from 10 to make sure they reward them properly for a long time. 30 seconds might
Yeah.
be too much. It probably takes ages. Let's say 10 to 20 seconds is a really good
Yeah.
reward. 30 seconds, I think everyone would be dying. It
Yeah.
sounds like nothing, doesn't it? But when you timed it, it'd probably be like
It's a lot.
forever. Yeah.
Mm.
Let's go 10 seconds is a good jackpot. Let's go with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. And then so I have like my youngest border collie, she is super sensitive. She hates failure, like she hates getting things wrong and stuff. And when you kind of mentioned about the pole knocking and everything, I literally find I have to reward her every single time, regardless. And I actually find her
Yeah.
behavior gets better as she
Yeah.
if and if I didn't reward her, then she would just be like, okay, sod you. I'm just gonna
Yeah, don't do it.
yeah.
Yeah, and
She's just like
Susan,
that.
I've had that. Jesus, Susan, my best dog is. I didn't never corrected a pole, never ever. She would have just melted, and I've built her up to a point now I can easily correct. She just comes back at me barking these days. But if I'd done it early on, she would have literally been a puddle on the floor. She's the most sensitive dog I've ever had in my life. So yeah, I think I don't like it when people put rules in, like if they have a pole down, you must correct it because it's very much dog dependent, and every dog is so different. I put a post up today on Instagram actually about I train every dog differently. Every single dog I've had, I've trained differently. And I hate the fact when some trainers just go, they've had a pole down, you must be consistent and mark it. Then black and white then. Because it's not black and white training. Same as
Yeah.
bring up a kid. It's not always black and white. You have to go with the dog in front of you. And Susan now is the least pole knocky dog I've ever had. And yet I never ever corrected a pole until she got to about 2 years old.
Okay.
So I think it's very much you have to know when they're at that level that you can correct it. Whereas Boosty, I could have corrected forever. I could have bollocked him if I'd wanted to. He wouldn't have given a shit. He would have just gone. He would have done the same thing again and again. So you do have to know the dog in front of you, know what they can cope with, and not just go. Well, I trained that one that way and that works, so I must train that one the same. You must look at the dog in front of you and think what's best for this dog.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. And then obviously with pole knocking and things, I think here in South Africa, I think training is still a little bit behind, in that some people will still kind of, down their dogs if they knock and that kind of thing. And what kind of things do you look for when you do have if your dog is perhaps knocking poles or you have a client's dog that knocks?
So again, it is dog dependent because I know Dan didn't correct Nerd to start with, and he's now having a lot of poles. So now if he does have a pole now, he does lie him down straight away. So it is dog dependent. If I did that with Susan, she would be like, oh, she'd think the world had ended. With her, I'm just like, whoopsie, I run back to the pole, I pick up, she jumps at me and barks. So it looks like she's actually having fun, but she knows she did it wrong. She won't ever have it down twice. So it really, really dog dependent on that one. Some of my students' dogs, I literally make them stop them, sit them down, pick the pole up. Some of them I say, doesn't matter, just make it fun. Other dogs I've literally just send them back to a bed because these are real bad pole knockers. I wouldn't do that with most dogs, but some have had literally every time they had a pole on your bed because then there's also no emotion involved. I think dog
Mm.
training can be very emotional, and sometimes that's where people get it wrong when they get. Obviously, it can be happy emotion, but as soon as you start bringing negative emotions in, some dogs read that so badly, and so it has to be the right kind of dog to be able to have the tougher punishment, like on your bed. But at least on your bed, there's no emotion because you're not go get on your bed, just like on your
Mm.
bed, like quickly on bed. I'll go and do the pole. Then there's no emotion between you and them. It's just like your time out. I'll sort that out. We'll come back and try it again. So again, it's reading the dog in front of you. I was very much with commotion. All right, I'm gonna mark every pole. Fame was a bit of a pole knocker, so I was like with Modo, I was like, right, I'm gonna mark every pole. And I'm sure I created him not collecting so well on jumps because I remember watching little videos back. I was super consistent every time he had a pole. I corrected it, and sometimes he was collecting and had a pole. Then I'd mark it, and then the next time he wouldn't collect, I was like, "Oh, I had a pole last time. I did that, and I collected. So this time I'm just going to launch it, keep the pole up." And I was like, "Oh, excellent! You've kept the pole up." And I'm sure I definitely didn't help. I didn't have good collection anyway, but I definitely didn't help with his collection because I really wish I hadn't marked every pole. I really wish I hadn't. But you live and learn with every dog.
Definitely.
And yeah, it's
Mm.
just knowing when to. I was with him, I was like, I was trying to do things a bit different. I should have just stuck with what I used to do. Stupid of me, trying to change.
And then what do you think about non-reward markers? Yes, no?
Or again, is
Yeah, again,
it
dog dependent again. Like with Boosie, I was like, no, I didn't really, I'm joking. But I'd be like, oh, you little shit. No, I would be with Boosie, I could stop him. I'd be like, as if I didn't do that, he would just run around going, "Wah, wah, wah," barking his head off. I'd be like, calm the hell down. With Susan, I'm very much like, whoopsie, doesn't matter. So my whoopsie is probably my biggest non-reward marker. Oops, oops. I just kind of pops out my mouth. And even if I say that to Susan, she still goes, "Oh God, something's happened."
Aw.
That's how,
Yeah.
and she has never been told off in her life for anything because she's just the most
Yeah.
well-behaved dog in the world. But she just, I remember bringing her back. She had a little break, just time off over winter. I brought her back, thought, right, I'll just do some weave entries to start off. And she was missing. She never missed weave entries. I just stood there and I went, "What are you doing?" Like, I wasn't even angry. I was just so confused. And honestly, she was on the floor like a puddle. And I was like, "It doesn't matter. I'm just thinking what you're doing." Sent her again, and she crawled on her belly all the way to the waves. I'm like, "What is wrong with you?"
Yeah.
Like, I
Aw.
honestly have never told that dog off for anything. She's allowed to do whatever she wants in her entire life. And I was just because I was confused. I just went, what's happening? I literally was just rubbed my head and was like, what's going on? Why are you missing a weave? Like, you never miss a weave entry. And she was literally terrified. So when people tell me they've got a sensitive dog, I really do
Yeah.
understand. So
Yeah.
and if she gets anything wrong more than twice, she will literally the third time she'll literally walk.
Samba
Like
is exactly the same. Exactly the
she
same.
can't.
Yeah.
I'll have to
Yeah.
make it easier straight away. But as soon as she gets it wrong once, I just make it easier now. Show her what I wanted, reward it, and then I repeat.
Yeah, yeah. What I do with Samba, what I've worked out now, because I would have the failure of twice, and she patterns very, very quickly as well. So I have to change stuff up all the time, and she thinks she knows best. So she remembers something we did 4 days ago on a call, and she thinks that's what she's doing and stuff, and then she's
Yeah.
like, and then I just breathe disappointedly, and then she's like, "Oh my God!" And literally, she like
They can smell it.
Yes, and I can tell she
Yeah.
starts with like this blocking kind of behavior. She jumps up and she wants to like lick around my mouth, and that's when I know, okay,
Yeah.
like, we stop. Or otherwise, so another trick I've learned is like literally like she'll get something wrong, but then immediately I'll just ask her for her middle position and then just reward that instead. And so
Yeah, reward something. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, so she's also definitely my most sensitive dog that I've ever had. And I
They are
thought
hard.
we're sensitive. Oh my God, but no, this one is like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought Boss was sensitive until I got this Fort Susan. 40, on the other hand, is literally the opposite, and it's absolutely lovely. It doesn't matter. She can fail 3 or 4, 5, 6 times. She doesn't care. She just comes and barks. She doesn't give a shit. I absolutely love it. They're much easier dogs to work with. Sensitive dogs are hard because you have to be a really good dog trainer.
Yeah.
You have to see it. You have to be able to see those little signs. I know when Susan's ear just goes back a little bit, I'm like, okay, you're getting stressed. We need to change something or have a timeout.
Yeah.
I was doing this dog walk with her once, and I was just trying to teach her directions on a dog walk, and I was saying right, which is also my jump cue, but she kept going straight to the jump and turning right. And again, I was like, what the hell are you doing? Then I realized, well, right is my jump cue. But then I said, no, I told her not to go to jump. I'm not even bad. I said, don't do that. I went, go to the weaves instead. She got the weave entry. Next time, honestly, on the down plank, she sniffed all the way down the down plank to make sure she got a mat. Sniffed all the way down, then got the mat, and then just like, oh, I'm terrified. And I can't tell you. And then I was like, no, it doesn't matter. I tried to tug with her. I'm not tugging with you.
Yes,
There's definitely something weird. You're being weird now because I
yeah,
was stressed because she was stressed. This is being weird.
yeah,
Had to put her in the car, had to get her
yeah,
back out, had to let her watch me train a few other dogs so she wound up, and then eventually she'll play again. But
yeah.
I've never had a dog that will shut down so easily, and it makes me. I've had to learn even again to be an even better dog trainer for her. So
Yeah.
I never. And nowadays, I think she's tough enough that I would have to do something quite bad now to
Mm.
make her shut down. But it's taken a long time to build her up to
Mm.
that point.
Yeah, yeah, no. Okay, good. So I know we'll definitely get there with Samba one day.
It gets better. It gets better.
Yeah. It's fine now. I'm like, she started in the ring, and I'm just taking a toy in the ring with her at the moment. And I'm like, I've never
Yeah.
done loads of tunnel stuff with her. But now she sees the line, and then she'll see a tunnel, and then she'll just dart off into the tunnel. And I'm just like, okay, yay, good girl, let's keep going. It's just like,
Yeah, exactly. Just reward
yeah,
reward everything.
yeah,
Just keep
no,
them happy.
yeah.
Eventually they'll understand, but it takes a little while.
Yes, bless them. And for dogs that have the opposite problem, so dogs that perhaps like so over aroused in the ring, like,
Mhm.
and perhaps they're just getting, everything wrong. And so perhaps there is like a young, inexperienced dog, and it's perhaps a novice kind of handler, and the dog
Yeah.
is kind of losing it in the ring and missing contacts and knocking bars and missing weave entries. Would you just get them to leave the ring, or would you kind of try and work through it? What would
I
be?
would definitely, I would say they would just need to do more. If they're being relatively good in training, I would just say it's more environmental and they need to go to more training shows, take the toys in. If you guys, can you guys do that there? Like
Yes,
training runs?
like at open shows, at champ shows, you can't really, but it's judge dependent. So, like, if I know
Okay.
the judge and the judge,
Okay, so yeah, just to try and find different environments to train in, try and get the same behavior you're getting at training. If they're being like that at training, there obviously is something going wrong somewhere in their training, which they need to figure out.
yeah,
They're not kind of communicating with the dog properly. And then just get it environmental. And I would just be going in the rings expecting to be training everything, doing maybe short sequences and coming out, not trying to do the whole course because it doesn't sound like they're ready for it. Yes, and if it gets into that state where they're just literally just everything's going everywhere, just leave the ring. Just leave the ring, do a couple of tricks and reward that.
yeah,
Don't keep trying to force it when it's literally going tits up.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I think the problem here is we have these we have South African champs here, and so like anyone can enter, and they're like A3 courses, but a lot of A1 dogs enter, and then
Okay. Yeah, that's
the
hard.
and then the owners do the courses, but obviously they're not ready for the courses, and then it
Yeah.
really kind of shuts the dog down, and owners then just get frustrated and stuff, and then like,
Yes.
what should I have
I
done?
know people then they don't
Yeah.
understand, but
Yes.
yeah, no, it happens over here too. And then they get as soon as you get the frustration, you know you've lost.
Yeah,
As soon as you start, and we've all had it. Jesus, we're not perfect. I've had it when you just think, "Oh my God, what's happening?" But
Yeah.
as soon as that happens, you might as well just give up for the day because
yeah,
unless you can snap yourself out of that irritation,
yeah,
they're going to know. Like the dogs do smell emotions. As soon as you get any kind
Mhm.
of hormonal change, they can smell it. So as soon as
definitely.
they can smell when you're annoyed, smell when you're happy. So even if you're externally going, yeah, but internally you're going,
Yeah,
oh, I'm going to
assuming,
kill
yeah,
you. And
yeah,
they
They
just
know.
know instantly you cannot fake it with them.
yeah,
So you've got to be happy or
yeah,
just don't bother it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And would you like increase the arousal level like in training as well to kind of get the
Definitely try and make them as wild as possible. Try and simulate that environment
yeah,
all the time.
yeah, yeah.
And
Cool.
then with the younger dogs, do you value speed over precision? Precision over speed? We have that argument all the
Really
time, at least
hard
when I
'cause I
started.
love
But
speed, but I love
yeah.
precision as well. I think I'm quite good at a nice balance. Like I think with Susan, I almost went a bit too much precision, knowing that she would be quick. And I think I did a lot of stuff with food quite early on just to really teach her behaviors. But she's a really intelligent dog and she has got really cool skills now, but she's not the fastest in the world. She's fast and she wins a lot, but she's not world champ style. Well, I mean, she could do very well. It would have to be the right course for her. She's not the kind of dog that just drives herself. I would have to push her to get the best run. Whereas
Mhm.
40, my young one, is very much more. I could literally walk around and she would do everything a million miles an hour, which is more my style of dog. I do really prefer that.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know. It's a really hard question. I do like them. If they weren't going fast, I would be upset. So I'd probably say I would go more for speed early on, and try and get the precision as well. I don't know. It's a really hard one. I don't know
And
how
for
to
like
answer it.
and for dogs that perhaps like lack drive and stuff, like
Hmm.
or Like,
Yeah.
what kind of things would you do to like help build up?
Again, oh, the toys. So it's finding that on switch for them. So some dogs they just do obviously more toy play. Like Susan hates her weaves, so I get another dog out and weave with it in front of her and get Dan to hold her. So I do a set of weaves with that dog. Then I chuck a toy for that one. And then I say, right, let her go, and then she has to do a set. So I do a lot of jealousy stuff with dogs that are a little bit less motivated. I use jealousy a lot because my dogs like go wild when I train one of my others. Like, and I say this to other people, and they're like, no, they just sit there and watch. And I can't imagine it. My dogs go mental when I train another dog. That's where I think, because I don't do a lot of self-control stuff. They don't just sit on the bed nicely. Like they do if I'm standing next to them, but if I was off doing something with another dog, a couple of them would, but I think they're just naturally well behaved. The others wouldn't. I'm not saying it's wrong to have done that as long as you've got a driving dog, but if you've got a dog that needs a bit more drive, I would do a lot less self-control.
Yeah.
Like some dogs I've let them go, be in a cage screaming their bloody heads off while I'm for literally a minute while I work another dog, then get them out and then do that. If I didn't do that with Boss, he would have walked everywhere. Like he just didn't have any drive whatsoever. So I do allow the less drivey dogs to be a bit naughtier. Like Susan wasn't as drivey as I wanted, so she does not sit on a bed. Oh my God, she's on and off that bloody bed, even if I'm standing right next to her. She doesn't care. And I guess I could bollock her. I could tell her off and get her to stay on it. But then she'd go, oh my God, I'm terrified. So I would never do that. So, and I can feed her on it a million times. She'll take the food, but she'll be hopping on and off. But then Commotion and 40, super strict with them. Off the bed, no, get on it instantly. I don't allow that naughtiness because they're so drivey anyway. I don't allow that over arousal. So again, it's always my answer is always dog dependent. For whichever dog you've got to be able to read it. But for the lower drive ones, I do allow them to be naughty. I expect some things, like I always expect to retrieve, not always expect to recall. But I do allow them to be a bit cheekier in the house. They're kind of allowed to do what they want. Like 40's got this thing. She picks on poor Urban. She runs up to him and nips him. And I think he doesn't seem to mind that much. I mean, she doesn't hurt him, but she really picks on him because she can tell that he's a bit more pathetic than she is in some ways. Dan always tries to tell her off. I'm like, don't tell her off. She's only playing. No, it was a whole rule with my whole group of friends. No one's ever allowed to correct Susan. She leaps on them and she runs up to them. And she literally pounds on them. I'm like, don't tell her off. She's a good girl. Like, no one is ever allowed to tell her off. And you can tell now, I was like, I get her. But I'm like, no. And then she'll kiss them. Then she'll give them a little nip. And they're like, I'm like, she's all right. She doesn't mean it. Honestly, I'm so pathetic with her. No one is ever allowed to correct her for anything. And it really drives everyone mad.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, well, you got some of them are a little bit wussy. You got to let them be a bit naughty if you want the drive. If you don't want the drive, then correct it. But if you want them to be fast, you got to let them be a bit naughty.
And then for the dogs that you do work on self-control with, what do you do?
I mean, bed games, a lot of bed games. They're not allowed off their bed unless they stay. I mean, Susan did have that, but then I just let her be naughty. Bed games. That's pretty much one of the only one things. They're not allowed to jump out of cages. They're not allowed to go through barriers without being given a release. Is the biggest thing. So that because that comes out with a weight. Like if you don't have that, you're not going to have a weight with most of your dogs. So open cages, not allowed out. They're not allowed to just leap around the place. Not allowed to race around on walks. Something I'm really funny about is crashing on walks. Racing around like complete idiots on walks. I think most dogs get injured on walks rather than doing agility, so I'm quite strict on walks. And I've got some that are really pain in the ass on walks, and I have to be quite strict on that. Crashing into other dogs, that I call that self-control. Being able to see a dog coming, actually actively trying to avoid it, because crashing causes. And I've got a lot of dogs. I've got 8 dogs to walk, so they're not allowed to hit each other. There's a few things in life I go crazy at: aggression, crashing. They're the 2 main things. Any aggression, I go wild, and any crashing, go wild. When I say wild, I don't beat the shit out of them, but they know I'm annoyed. Like I will collar grab and I'll say, pack it in. I'm not one of these trainers that is so positive that I won't ever correct my dogs. But I won't correct them for anything in agility like that ever, because that's something I want them to do. But life skills, I haven't got a problem telling them to pack it in. It drives me mad when people with reactive dogs have them on the end of the lead, scream their heads off, barking at a dog, and then they wait for them to stop it, then they feed them. And that's the same as watching your kid stab someone and then giving it £100 when it comes back to you. What the hell? Who would do that? Like they're going to think, well, I'm going to do that again. So I do tell my dogs if they're being reactive, I get hold of the collar. I do a lot of collar grabs. So collar grab, pack it in. I just look them in the eye. I've got that connection with them. I can do that. I look them in the eye. I say, just don't do that. Then if you look at me, then I'll give you a reward. But I haven't got a problem telling my dogs not to do something. It's positive, but it's not permissive. Will reward when they do something good, but if they do something I don't like be aggressive to something, I will tell them not to do it. Because I had a conversation with someone the other day, actually. Their dog was coming in screaming at everything, making a few other dogs scared. And she was on the end of the lid and she did nothing. And eventually she just brought a bit of food around to its face while it was looking at something else. And I said, you just rewarded it for doing all that and looking at something. Oh, it's all fear-based. I said, well, I don't care because it's now made those other two dogs scared. They're probably going to do it to the next dog they see. It drives me mad, this whole fear-based thing. And yes, they might be scared, but then don't put them in the environment. Oh, I'm getting irritated by it. So I'm getting anxiety over it. Yeah, so it's my dogs are very well behaved in that respect. They won't look for trouble with other dogs because they know that they're not allowed to. I'd rather, if you don't like other dogs, just keep out their way. Keep away or come back to me and I'll sort it out. And that's what they'll do because Boosty is a reactive little shit. He's horrible. He'll just, if he doesn't like a dog, he just comes back to me. Because he knows that I'll sort it out, or I'll put him on a lead, or I'll put a muzzle on him. He knows that I'll fix it. He doesn't have to fix it himself.
Yeah. And then like in terms of like self-control around toys and things as well, like do you do a lot of stuff like, because again, I find a lot of people, or they have dogs so that they can't think when the reward is out already. So do you do any like prep work for that to be
I think,
dogs
I don't
working?
think it's a good question. I don't think I even do it. I don't think, right, I'm going to do self-control around this toy. I think I just, in my training, I think I just do it. My dogs are not really allowed to grab the toy unless I give them a get it cue. So they don't ever self-reward, and just obviously when they're at home and just have toys, whatever, absolutely. But if I've got the toy, they're not just allowed to jump up and launch at me and grab it. And I'm quite like, I just don't let them have it until I say get it. And the same thing is like, say you have to do a trick. They're not allowed to do one trick and grab the toy. If they do the trick right, they get it. If I don't say anything, they have to wait until I give them another cue, like another trick, like right, left, down, sit, whatever. And then I say get it. Then I put the toy on the floor and the same thing. I give them a cue to do a behavior like down. They're not allowed to just do down and get it. They have to do down and they have to wait until I give them the get it cue. So I think I do a lot of self-control around the toy. I do a lot of circle work, flat work around the toy. I definitely do a lot of tricks with the toy. Also have my foot ready, not to stand on their head or kick them, just to stand on the toy. So they're going to get the toy. Foot goes on toy. No, you're not allowed to do something, do what I've asked you to do. Then you're allowed it when I give you a get it cue. So I think I've been seeing that a lot recently in my students is their dogs are self-rewarding a lot. And if they self-reward in a toy, they're going to self-reward on equipment. So it's gonna seep into your agility. So very much they're not allowed to just grab things unless I say their get it cue. Because even their yes cue shouldn't always mean grab toy. It's very obvious. If I have it and I say yes and sort of pass it to them, then yeah, they're allowed it. But if it's on the floor, if I say yes, doesn't always mean grab toy. They kind of just know when they're allowed it, when they're not. Must be something to do with my body language as well. But yes, definitely have a word that means you're allowed it. They shouldn't just do a behavior and go get it. And I do a lot of stuff like toys on wings. They have to do the wing before they get the toy. I might ask for then 2 wings. I did a lot of I did a bit of that recently on my social media stuff. I did some videos on like going over the toy. Like if I give a toys right in front of them and I give them a wing wrap cue, they have to run over the toy to do the wing wrap and then they're allowed to get it. So, but then I'll say get it a few times. They're allowed to just go straight to it. And then I'll give the wing wrap cue again. They have to go over it and do the wing wrap. So they very much know to do a behavior if I give it to them and not just grab their toy unless I give them their cue too. So the answer is yes. I do a lot of self-control stuff around toys without even realizing I probably do it. It's not something I do like specifically. It just kind of happens.
Yeah. And the next bunch of questions are more on my favorite thing. So I compete in volleyball sort of at a national level, not internationally, but I find like a lot of the high performance habits and things that we get taught and other like sportsmen get taught doesn't go over to a lot of the agility people and their dogs. You know, they don't treat themselves as athletes. They don't do mental prep. They don't do physical prep, you know, things like that. So what do you do, or what do you advise your students to do in terms of like mental prep? I know when I started as well, getting nervous was a big thing. So what advice do you normally give?
That's a hard one because don't ask my students what I say to them because I'm probably really rude. Get a grip. What's wrong with you? Just do it. I do try and be a little bit, again, depending on the student. Some students need that, just like get on with it, just do it. Whereas others need a bit more coaxing and a bit more nicey. You can do it. You've got it. So, I do very much know what type of person I'm talking to. For me, myself, I think, because I get nervous, absolutely. Like, I've definitely got a fear of failure. I'd rather sometimes, and it's messed me up in the past where I've gone in thinking I'm going to fail and I'm too scared to fail, so then I don't even try because I don't want it to look like I've made an effort and then be really crap. So you know, I definitely do that too, or have done in the past. I think I've sorted my head out with it now. Think of it. I don't know, what do I do with my lots of people, I mean, in this country it's a big thing at the moment, people doing their mental prep. Loads of people are really into it now. It's not something I think I've just competed for so long now. It's not something I've ever really needed. I think I've always been in sports and been competitive and just learned to kind of just deal with it. But they're not. But I think I was quite unique that not everyone can do that. And I do understand lots of people do just get so nervous that they then just can't perform. And I think what they must remember is stop thinking about everyone else around them. This is what I've had done in the
That's the
past. And
biggest
just think
thing
about
I
you and the
find.
dog.
Yeah.
Get in the ring and just do your thing. Forget everyone else. And I really do. I'm very good at blocking everyone else out around the ring. But have your way of doing things. Like if I watch too many people, I start getting in my own head. I can't beat that. You see this amazing run, you think there's no way I could beat that. What's the point of even trying? You know, you see some dogs, they look so fast. You think, how can that possibly be beaten? And then you might beat them. You don't know, do you? But I've had the experience to know that. But yeah, I don't like to. So know what you're good at. Some people love to watch everyone. I'm very much good. I need to be away. I need to have lots of banter with my friends. I like to have a laugh. If I'm too serious, I just get up in my own head and stress. So I like to have lots of laugh. I like to just try and be a bit more chilled out, not so stressy about it. But everyone needs to have their own little things they do, their routines to calm themselves down. Like I have to, if I have to warm my dog up a certain amount of time before. If I'm like at the world champs, I have to know exactly, like for 45 minutes before, I've got to do a warm up. I have to do it, and then I have to rest, then leave them a little bit, just walk around the course in my head a few times, then I have to go back exactly 15 minutes before. So I do another little warm up, and then I'm ready. But it has to be, those times are really strict for me. Otherwise, I start getting really stressed that I've not done it right, or they're not warmed up enough, or I've not warmed up enough. So it's just having your own little routine, I think, really helps.
Yeah.
Because sometimes if your routine goes out, everything goes out the window because you just can't focus on what's happening. But also you should try practice sometimes not doing your routine, because sometimes something happens, doesn't it? And like it can't go right. So making sure you have practiced without doing your routine as well. Someone said that to me recently, a good friend actually. He's like, well, my routine was out for that one run because of whatever, and I messed up because of that. And I said, we need to practice. Like, it's not always going to be perfect. Practice not doing the exact routine, and then just being able to get your headspace in. But as easy as said than done. It's not an easy thing to do. I do think it's coming more and more into agility, people getting more into their headspace and mindset and dog warm up. I mean, I've always been big on dog warm up. I definitely don't warm myself up enough, nowhere near. I just think I'll be right. I'm getting so old now. I really need to. I come out going, oh, shit, that hurts. So yeah, I probably should do a bit more of that now.
I know, I'm like, my knees kill me after like a 2 day
My
stretch.
ankles. Oh, it's my ankles.
Oh, no.
I've just had steroids in my ankles. Oh my god, it's like magic.
Oh,
The
really?
pain's gone. I'm pain free for the first time in about 7 years. Oh my god, I'm gonna just stick to the drugs, get all those injections in there.
No.
That's so funny.
Honestly, it's so nice. I love it.
Yeah.
I've tried everything. Yeah, so I know how you feel with your knees.
Yeah, no.
Getting old, Chantal. We're getting old.
I know, it's horrible.
It is.
And can you give us like a quick, like rough, like warm up of what you do with your dogs? We won't talk about how you warm yourself up, as obviously you don't do it.
Don't talk about that. I walk to the burger van, grab something to eat, and walk back. That's my warm up. So the dogs, they get a walk around. So they get a walking, obviously, to toilets and stuff. So I give them at least a 5-minute walk around, at least. Then I do a rub down. So like, because I'm a trained osteopath, I did that for my university. I did that for my dissertation. I did like a warm up, the whole dissertation on it about rubbing down and the effects it has, blah, blah, blah. So I give them a good rub down, all their major muscle groups, just trying to increase blood flow everywhere, increase circulation. So you're just warming the muscles up. So obviously a cold muscle is like cold blue tack, snaps. So it's a warm muscle. So it's like nice and squishy. So warm everything up, get more, and then I want to do some tricks. So I want to increase heart rate, which also obviously is going to pump everything through more. I want to increase their breathing, so you can get more oxygen in, which gives you more energy. So it goes walking around, my warm up, rubbing down, then active warm up. So they do tricks, circle work, and just if I've got a practice jump, I'll pop them over that. So it should, in theory, take me about 15 to 20 minutes to do a really proper warm up. I would say on my dogs. If they've just run, or if they've run recently, I'll do like a half a one. So I'll just do like a rub down and a quick one. So they don't always have that full on 20 minutes. But then also with the cool down, they have to have a good 5 to 10 minute walk around afterwards as well.
Yeah.
But yes, me and my friends are all really funny about warm up, cool down. We very much judge people that finish their training session, get in their car and drive away.
Yeah.
We're like,
Yeah.
oh, look, they didn't do a warm down. They didn't do a cool down. Yeah, we're very, we're not too judgy, but things like that. We definitely judge a little bit because we're so obsessed with it. And then they don't get injured dogs and drives us crazy. Like,
Yeah, that's
why
the
aren't they
irony.
getting all these bloody injuries?
Yeah, yeah, very annoying. And would you do
So
the same amount
unfair.
of like warm up and cool down? Like, say if the temperature is much hotter, then
Oh no, probably not actually. We're not used to we don't have to worry too much about that normally.
Yeah.
But yes, probably if it's warmer temperatures, I wouldn't do too much. So you don't want them, you want them like a little bit panty, but you don't want them go you don't want them absolutely dying before they go in the ring. So yes, you've got to judge it with the dog. But yeah, I definitely would always do my rub down. I wouldn't do so much active warm up where they're doing more tricks and stuff. I do a little bit, but like when we've been at EOs and stuff, when it's been boiling, I do very little of the actual like any jumps and stuff. I do like one or two very quick ones and then just run them back to the shade. So yeah, you guys probably have a bit more problems with that than we would have. So
yeah,
yes, definitely
yeah.
a shorter one if the temperature's higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I always compare this anyway to humans. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I always do. So like for us in volleyball, we generally get like a period of rest and then we start with conditioning, no skills training or anything yet. And then obviously we bring in the skills training and we also do conditioning, at a different time, like you have your schedules and stuff. But what do you do for your dogs to prep them like in terms of fitness and skills and everything for a big event?
This is a really good question because we very much have peaks and troughs with the dogs.
Yes.
I couldn't keep them like to get them fit for EOs and AWC takes a lot, like to get them at that peak fitness, and you want to peak at just the right time. So it's really hard to get it right with some dogs, and like that's why I don't do WAO as well, because I cannot keep them at that peak for 3 events. It's too much. Like they would just burn out after a couple of years of that. So that's why I only do the 2 events. And no other big ones. I do get them fit for cross, but I don't get them the same fitness as I would for the world champs and EOs. That's when they're at their peak. So same thing. They're kind of just ticking along throughout the year. For competitions in the UK, I don't feel like they need to be at their very very best because I just don't want them to be. I can't keep them at that level throughout the whole year. So conditioning. So I'll start doing fitness stuff. I'll start doing some sprint training. So when I'm building up. Certain again, each dog will be different, but a few weeks out, maybe a couple of months, I'd start small and then build up. So if you watch your dog sprint on a walk, they don't sprint for very long. It's like short. I timed it before. It was like 5 seconds, 5 to 6 seconds. Whereas I want them to be able to sprint for 30 seconds. So I start with like 10-second sprints, like just round cones or barrels or through hoopers or whatever, then build up to 20 seconds, and eventually build up to 30 seconds. So I think the sprinting is more important than actually being able to run equipment for that long, just being able to sprint for that long. Like world-class athletes, aren't they? Now, if they go to a gym and do 10 squats, they're not going to feel it. It's going to do absolutely nothing for them. So I think conditioning is great for building up from injury and from rest. But I think when they're at their almost peak anyway, to actually make the conditioning do anything, you'd have to put weights on them. You'd have to make it heavy. You'd have to build up so much that, and then I wouldn't do that to my dogs. How do you know they're using their bodies correctly? And the amount of people actually don't do conditioning correctly is very small. It's very hard to make your dogs, you can even for ourselves, like even if I go to the gym, if I've started going to the gym for a couple of months, I go and do 20 squats, I don't feel it. Whereas if after a rest and I come back and do it, it bloody hurts the next day. I can't walk. And it's the same for the dogs. If they're at that top level, the conditioning that we would all do, like stand on a wobble cushion, is not going to do anything for them. Like for proprioception, but it's not going to actually build muscle because they're already at that pretty much peak. They're coming up to that peakness. So I don't do a lot of conditioning unless they're coming back from injury or they've had like a couple of months off, and then I will condition before I start doing too much training, because I feel like that's when you're going to see the biggest improvements. But when they're already peaking, the amount of conditioning I would do would do nothing for them. It'd be a waste of my time, waste of their time. It's good for proprioception, but I don't think it builds muscle. I think more building muscle will be hydrotherapy, swimming, agility. I do conditioning stuff with agility equipment, like I'll make them stand next to a jump and hop over a jump from nothing. So I think that actually helps them. But actually standing wobble cushions and stuff, I'm not really big into that unless they're coming back from injury or something.
Yeah, and even like I mean, doing it incorrectly is actually going to lead to more chance of injury, right? And not
Exactly. And
less
how do
chance
you
of injury.
exactly? And how do you tell them exactly what to do on
Yeah,
these things that we're making them do it on? Like they have to do it slowly. They have to do it precisely. Like I know if I go to gym and do something wrong, it bloody hurts the next day. And I know I've done something wrong.
yeah,
And unless you get trained perfectly to do it, and I have personal train sessions, and they say, no, you do put that there, you need to do that there. And when I have a train session, I never hurt myself because they tell me how to put my body. Whereas when I'm doing it for my dogs, you know, and I'm an osteopath, so I do know how their body works. But people that have had no training in that, how are they meant to
yeah,
know if they're doing it right?
Yeah.
You know, sits to stands and stuff, great. When they've had a rest, come back from injury, great. Do all that stuff. I do think it's beneficial. But when they're sort of running agility equipment and they're pretty fit, I don't see how it's going to be particularly beneficial to them unless they're unfit dogs doing agility equipment, which also could be the case.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And some people
yeah.
can
No,
So,
definitely.
conditioning for too long, can't they? And they don't know what
mm,
they can't see if their dog is like not standing
fatiguing,
properly or like
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
Exactly. People don't, they just
yeah.
go, they know they've been said, oh, go and stand on that wobble cushion. So that's what they make their dogs do. And I think
10
it
minutes
causes a
later.
lot more issues than it actually fixes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely. And on like show days, do you feed your dogs anything differently or do you?
Yes, so I got all this information from Holly Barker. You guys
Oh
heard of
yeah,
her?
yeah,
She's like
yeah.
a
Oh no,
sport
I
Yeah.
actually to be on the
nutritionist.
show. Yeah.
She's really great. Like
Mhm.
I feed them fats in the morning so they get a lot of fatty stuff, fishes and fat bombs, and so it's all about the fats for the energy in the morning, and then in the evening they won't get meat in the morning because that actually doesn't help them with their energy because I feed them raw. So apparently this is all what I've learned from Holly. So meat in the morning isn't great for them because of something about the digestion, but you want them all to have fats. You don't want them to have any carbs or anything like that. It's all about the fats. Fats give energy. So during the day of competition, I'll make sure they have a lot of fatty stuff if they feel like they need it. If it's just a normal competition, I probably don't bother too much. But if it's something in big or important, they definitely get a lot all that kind of stuff. I make like this breakfast bar thing that Holly gave me for. It's really cool, and obviously having a lot to drink is excellent. And that news, have you seen that stuff that Dalton's brought out? The
Yeah,
hydration drink, Better
yeah,
Dog. Oh my
yeah.
god, it's
It's good.
so good because I never remember to take goat's milk with me. I never remember to pick up things I need to. That's just a dry formula in the car. It's full of stuff. Mix it with a bit of water, and they'll drink it all day long. You have to stop them drinking it. But I think being hydrated is so important.
Yeah.
So many dogs are not hydrated enough
Yeah.
during that competition day. So that is like I'm sure there was other products before, but I think they marketed it really well. I think it's got amazing ingredients. Um, and yeah, I would. That's fantastic. So whatever you need to use, but making sure your dogs drink throughout the day, super important.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. And with like, 'cause obviously I feed raw as well. And then do you add any extra supplements for like your competing dogs or?
Yeah, they get like they get mushrooms, some weird mushrooms that's meant to make them live longer. They get loads of antinol, so like joint supplements. They get supplements from what else they get? They get some well, at least what a couple times a week they get fishes added to their thing. They get um organs. What am I talking about? Internal organs when they're mushed up. Offal, they get offal
Oh,
mixed in with their dinners. And
Yeah.
yeah, they don't think any other supplements. A bit of something natural instinct do. No, I think it's mainly the joint supplement, the
mhm.
fish I like to give them,
Yeah,
and the mushrooms.
cool.
They're the main
Yeah.
they're the main ones.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. So the last question, we started this a few episodes ago, but it's stuck now, is if you had to choose three things that you could like advise people to do or just advice to give people on how to make their dog happy. So three things for a happy dog.
Make them happy in life.
whatever you want.
However you want to interpret it. Yes.
There's a hard one. Okay, what would I do to make my dogs happy? Hug them every single day. So many cuddles. Oh, it makes them so happy. Yes, let them sleep on the sofa. Let them do it. Like,
Yes.
just doesn't matter if there's a bit of hair on the sofa. Just let them be up there. They want to come up. No
Mhm.
dogs don't want to come on the sofa.
Yeah.
And give them lots of treats as well.
Yeah.
Those three things. If
Yeah.
my dogs just had those three things, they would be happy. They wouldn't need agility. They would just be like, oh my God, I've got the best life.
Best life. Yeah.
That's what your dog's doing.
I
Right.
hug them, feed them
Yeah.
treats, let them on the sofa and the bed. There's four things.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much for coming on, Dave. We really appreciate your
No
time.
worries.
If people want to hear more about you, where can they find you?
So Facebook, QME Agility, Instagram, QME Agility, my website, QME Agility, so QME Agility. Yeah, so that website, I'm really, really excited about my website. It's taken me years to build up all this content, and now they get that, they get the crew as well. They get so much for really not very much money. I know the conversion rate for you guys is probably shit,
Yeah.
but
We have lots of listeners
I,
in the UK and Europe as well, so it's fine.
yeah, it's just bad. I don't even understand conversion rates. I'm just parroting what people have told me. I don't get it. So I just know that it's more expensive for you guys, but it is quite cheap
Yeah.
still. But it's if you want to learn what I do, that's the website is the best thing because it's just got so much information on it. I tried my hardest to make it as good, and I'm always adding to it and making it better. So it's a cool one.
Yeah, and we'll put all the links and stuff in the show notes.
Amazing.
So,
Thanks,
yeah.
guys.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you so much, Dave. Really appreciate your
No
time.
worries. It's been fun.
Thank you.